300 miles, Vegas to Los Angeles in 48 hours on a bike, and you hadn't been on a bike in basically forever. How did the bet come about?
Yeah, I didn't even own a bicycle. It was, we were at a poker table, and it actually started, this guy, Bill Perkins, he bet my brother, God, what was it? It was like, I think he bet him like 200,000 or 300,000 and he couldn't go 2 or 3 days without saying the word "the." And then somehow it like turned into a, you know, talk of like what would be an impossible physical feat. And the bike ride was one of the ones that came up, and it was a bet that was actually offered to Rick Solomon, and Rick Solomon called up one of his buddies that I guess is like in the Guinness Book of World Records for doing a lot of stuff, and he asked him, and the guy was like, no chance, like you can't do this, like there's no way. And so Rick ended up passing on the bet, and it was just like, I don't know, it was eating at me. It was just like one of those things where, like in life, the things that I've regretted are the things that I didn't try. So I talked to these cyclists, and like, I remember I called down to a bike shop, and I'm like, hey, like, you know, if I want to train for, you know, a 300-mile bike ride, you know, like what do I got to do? Like, how long would it take me, you know, if I was like super dedicated? He goes, most people train for 3 to 4 months to do a century, which is a 100-mile bike ride. And I'm just like, well, I'm gonna do 300. And I'm like, I got 48 hours to do it, you know? And he's like, I don't care if you have a week to do it. He's like, you're not gonna ride 300 miles on a bike. He goes, you're gonna get saddle sores, you know, you're gonna mess yourself up. Like you're not gonna be able to sit on the seat. Like you have to like get used to this stuff. And and I'm like, well, listen, I'm like, I'm gonna do it. And he's like, well, good luck. And then hung up the phone. And so I went to the gym, and I got on the stationary bike, and I'll never forget this. I rode for 45 minutes, and I like couldn't go anymore. And I was just like, my legs were just on fire, and I was just like, oh man, like this is rough. Like this is gonna be tough. And then Bill calls me up, and I remember I was like I had just taken a Valium or smoked a joint or something. I was like kind of like, you know, not really like 100% there. And he's like, you want to do the bet? And I'm just like, well, I'm like, dude, I got some like pretty negative feedback on this thing. I was like, why don't you give me 3 months to train and I'll take the bet? And he goes, no, he goes, I'll give you, you know, a month to train. And I was like, no, that's just like not enough time. And he goes, all right, I'll give you till the end of next month, which was effectively like 5.5 weeks. He's like, but this, like, the offer's on the table right now. And I'm just like, dude, like, I'm not sober. Like, let's like talk about this tomorrow. And he's like, no, right now, or the offer's off the table. And I'm like, how much do you want to bet? He's like, 500 grand. I'm like, no, it's not enough. I'm like, I wouldn't even do it for 500 grand. He's like, 600 grand. He's like, right now. He's like, I'm like, bro, I'm not sober. Like, I really don't want to like make the bet right now. He's like, 600 grand right now. You have till the end of next month. I was like, you're on. So I started training. I took it real seriously, and Lance Armstrong reached out, and like he came out. And like,
so how did Lance end up getting involved?
So he text messaged Joe Rogan and was like, hey, like, you know, I heard Dan's got this bet, and you know, why don't you see if, you know, like he'd be interested in me helping him, you know, with the ride and coaching him. And so Joe texted me, he's like, hey, like, you know, Lance reached out. He wanted to know if, you know, you'd be open to, you know, him coaching you. I was like, yeah, dude, give him my number. Right. That'd be amazing. So he came out, and like, he like taught me some stuff on the cycling, and like, you know, when he came out, I was like, okay, like, you know, so what kind of drugs do I need to do? Like, what's the deal? Right. And he didn't really like want to talk about that sort of stuff. And I was like,
so, when you ask him that, what does he say?
Well, he just, I don't know, he like really like skirted the question, and I'm just like, man, like I could have anybody like teach me how to pedal a bike. Like I wanted the drug, you know. And no, but he was real cool, man. He was real cool, and we went for a ride, and like we talked strategy and stuff. And I just want to make sure that, because I ended up betting more money on this bike race. It was like, it ended up being like up to like over $1 million by the end of it, because I was like taking on more action.
What were the other bets?
I mean, there were some crazy ones. One of them was like my plane versus like 250,000. If I died, Rick got my plane and my pilots.
Rick Solomon.
Yeah, and then if I didn't die and also completed it, then he had to pay me 250 grand. And And so there was like other side bets too. And then I bet like 50,000 for charity. And I ended up like, so Lance, like the one thing that he wanted was like for me to donate to his like children's cancer charity, which I thought was actually real cool. And that's one of the charities that, that's one of the, types of charities that I like to donate to, that and wounded veterans, but children's cancer is actually probably a better one. So I was like stoked to do that. So I just bet my buddy on the side 50,000, and then when I won that, then I just gave that to his charity.
What were some of the highlights from the start to the finish?
I mean, I had a blowout doing like 30 miles an hour downhill. I mean, that was kind of crazy. And it was like in the dead of night, just getting passed by tractor trailers on the highway doing like 90 miles an hour. And like, if you've ever driven by those in a car, like they'll move your car.
Right.
So if they're moving a 5,000 pound car, like imagine what they do to a 200 pound biker, so it's like, there was that, and then you would get hit by like side gusts of wind, and like, then there's potholes on the road, and it's like pitch black, and I'm like trying to like go behind this van so I can only see like this short period in front of me. And I did about half the ride like drafting this van, and then I did the other half just without it.
And you had a police escort for part, but then another part you did not on
Yeah, they refused
highway.
to do the highway, which was like the most dangerous part of all. It was cool through the city because like you didn't get jammed up in traffic, and I wouldn't get hit by cars. So that was a plus. But the highway was like real gnarly. Like there was one where there was like, it was going one way and then there was going another way. And there was, and there was like a double yellow line, and there was a car that came around to pass as there was a car coming, and he had to like cut through the both of us. And if I didn't have that lead van, he would have hit me for sure. That was cool.
Was there a point where you didn't think you were going to be able to do it?
I mean, I was never really sure that I was going to be able to do it. I mean, I had all these like guys that were like the only guy that thought that I could do it was Lance. It's the only guy.
Why'd he think you could?
I don't know. He's just an animal, and he just probably thinks he thinks like I do. Like the human body is just capable of like far more than like people know, And like only guys that have like really pushed themselves beyond like the limits of what they think is possible know that. A lot of people can say that, but until you've actually that's what one of the things they say in SEAL training is that your body's capable of 10 times what you think that it's capable of. Like a lot of people like say that and hear that or whatever, but like 10 times is a lot, and it's actually true. Like you're able to do it if you're like mentally tough enough. Like you can just keep going through those barriers, like you can just keep breaking through them.